think of self-doubt as something that I carry with me all the time. Like I'm afraid to do things, or I doubt whether I can do it, or whether I'm the right person for this, or whether I'm worthy of being in this space all the time, and then I just have to do it anyway. And so, I think one kind of moment of my life where it was present a lot was in my transition to college. So in high school, I was a good student, but never exceptional. And I got into the University of Wisconsin-Madison, which is a good school. And I remember always thinking that maybe they let me in by mistake, and that if they realized who I was, that like maybe they'd be like, oh, just kidding, you should go somewhere else. And I came into it with just this sort of chip on my shoulder, thinking that I was probably in like the bottom percentile of folks they had let in. And I got to campus as a first-gen student. My parents, dropped me off on campus, and I had really kind of no idea what I was supposed to be doing in college. I had no frame of reference for like what college students were doing, and everybody else moving into the dorm seemed to sort of instinctually know how to do things. So, they were like going to the student union, and they knew how to get food with their food cart at the cafeteria, and they knew how to get books at the bookstore. And I just felt like such an idiot. Like I was almost paralyzed in doing that. I remember going to the bookstore and seeing the little cards that have, the professor name and what books they are. And they were so confusing that I just left. I was like, absolutely not. I'm not going to be asking about what to do. And when I went to classes, students would participate in classes in ways that I was like, this conversation seems above me. And I don't really think it was. I think I was just intimidated. And it took me a long time in college to realize that I actually was very capable of being there, that it wasn't a mistake. And I didn't really have any evidence for it either. Like I got good grades. I graduated in the top of my class. I, was recommended for a lot of things. So I had no actual evidence that I wasn't good enough. This was something that just sort of existed in my own brain. And so I think it's one of those things where there wasn't one moment of my undergrad experience where I was like, wow, this is the moment that I was feeling self-doubt. I think it was just this little thing I lived with every day. And, sometimes it meant that I was hesitant to apply for things that I knew I could do. Sometimes it meant that I was quiet in class because I wasn't sure if the thing I was thinking was actually like totally stupid and everybody would laugh at me, and sometimes, it was just something that was just in the background and I was living my life and, doing just fine. And so I think it's just something that was always there. So when I made the transition into being faculty, I never wanted to make anybody feel like I felt. So I pretty regularly openly talk about being a first-gen college student and kind of living with the imposter syndrome and self-doubt. And when I do that, I often see students sort of look around the room and nod along with me. And it's there's a lot of power, I think, in naming that this is something we all live with. And as a faculty member, I know students look to me and they assume just I have it together and I don't have self-doubt, like I'm the leader of this class. I want them to know that I live with that all the time, and I doubt my classes and I doubt myself, and I just live with that, and that's totally normal. And so many of us do that, and we can form community, and we can stop holding each other accountable to these weird standards that only exist in our head. So I have made a point in my adult life to just talk very openly about the ways that I've failed, and sometimes failed up and sometimes failed down, and this is a part of my life that I live with all the time, and I just do things scared, and that's just how I have been successful.
Yeah, I think that story really presents itself in the idea that everyone kind of has this voice in their head whispering, you're not good enough, that voice that kind of sneaks in and tells you that you should doubt yourself in the moments that matter the most. Maybe that doubt is the reason that you missed out on an opportunity like you spoke on, where you didn't apply to something or you didn't put yourself in a pool of candidates, and the reason things haven't been going well because you're just in your head all the time. When that self-doubt invades our self-acceptance and starts defining us, it is when it needs to be recognized, confronted, and reduced. Doubt can show up at any moment for all of us, and it will always be present, right? Like you spoke on. But what if we told you there is a way to view doubt differently and use it to your advantage? What if self-doubt could be a good thing?
If we want to break down self-doubt, it starts with just recognizing it for what it is. And it is an opportunity to gain some clarity in our own lives. So when self-doubt, comes to visit you, it starts to take over. For example, you're working with a team of successful people and you think to yourself, ooh, I don't think I belong here. I think I'm way out of my league. This right here is exactly the moment where you can peel back the layers of yourself and get to a deeper truth. And that truth is, if you didn't belong in that environment with that successful team, you wouldn't be there. But you are there and you do belong. You did jump through all the hoops and you worked hard to get where you wanted to be.
Although there are others who might appear more successful or smarter from the outside, don't discredit your capabilities, skills, or journey to that current moment. You're the only one that matters in the grand scheme of things. That doubt is actually a window to a better life filled with confidence, as it can help you learn more about yourself. When you can focus on things you can control in your life and what kind of picture you want to create, the more this self-doubt seems to shrink and not come into the picture as much. By focusing on yourself and on the things you need to do for your self-growth, you can pull yourself out of the doubt cave full of fear and confusion and thus give you more clarity, a feeling of ease, and put yourself on a better path.
The best part is, and something that's been really helpful in my life, is that you don't have to take on that doubt by yourself. You can find support from other people when you're starting to experience self-doubt, and it can be really helpful to have other people who just are there to acknowledge that self-doubt is real and who can be sort of a sounding board for you. It doesn't matter who that person is. If you know someone who can uplift you, who can acknowledge what you're going through, and who can help you get back on track, you should surround yourself with those people. So surround yourself with friends or professors or mentors or family who genuinely believe in you and who understand and acknowledge what it is that you're going through. You could even search for inspirational books or podcasts to find something that can help you use self-doubt to your advantage. There could literally be one sentence on a page of a book or one comment made in a podcast that can completely change how you view self-doubt and how you live with it in your life.
Speaking of mentors and friends and self-doubt, I think for me, when I was in undergrad and I had surrounded myself with opportunities, right? I really wanted to be involved. I knew I wanted to be involved, but was I good enough to be involved? Did I have the experiences to be involved? I really sat with that and wondered, why would someone choose me for a position over the 50 other applicants who wanted to be a resident assistant? And some of that doubt didn't present so easily in my mind. I wasn't thinking through it as it was doubting myself. I was just thinking that's the way everyone felt in life, was to think that they're not good enough. And you just kind of overcome that unless you're, some big shot in a corporate world where you just are full of yourself and you're going to make it. So I really turned to my advisors at the time and my mentors to talk about why was I feeling like I wasn't going to succeed in the roles of leadership that I chose. And they were the ones who really helped me point it out, because it's really hard when you're in it to realize that you're doubting yourself and that's something you're going through, especially if you don't have maybe a family system that can help you kind of work through that with conversations and over time. Or if you never did that before, and so you're like, oh, I never applied myself in that way. And I feel like my mentors were the people who really sat with me and helped me figure out who I wanted to be and what kind of doubt I could still have, because we all doubt ourselves. So it's not going to just go away, but also what kind of confidence I could have. And I think as I've grown into my professional career where I'm able to work with students and sit with them in their personal journey, I see that a lot, where I can have conversations with them and help them identify what they're going through and their doubt. And I think that's so important to have those people you can turn to. So I totally agree with making sure you're surrounding yourself with folks who can thoroughly support you and make sure that you're living the best life that you want and your journey is exactly what you want. A mentor once told me, you only live for you because you're the only one who you spend every day with. You're the only one you go through this life with. You'll have people enter your journey and leave your journey, and that just is kind of a part of life. But when you look in the mirror, it's just you. So what do you want? And I think when I think about doubting myself, I'm like, okay, is this something I want? Then why am I doubting myself? This is something I can do. And it's really helped me get where I am.
That speaks so much to who self-doubt impacts. And it's literally everybody, because I look at some of the most capable people that I look up to, and they're feeling the same thing that I'm feeling. And so it really is just something so many of us live with, that we put ourselves in these positions where we're thinking we're not the one, but that's what everyone's thinking when they look at us, right? And so it's something that's everywhere.
Yeah, and having those mentors who aren't afraid to talk about when they failed or when they doubted themselves, I think really shows that you're not in it alone, especially when you're like, oh, this person's like in their career and so successful and they're teaching me. And you're like, wow, that could be me one day.
So what this really comes down to is consistent action, taking even the smallest steps forward to viewing self-doubt as an opportunity can actually create some momentum in our lives. And that can look like just taking advantage of one small opportunity, changing the way that we think about whether we're capable of being in a particular space, choosing to focus on ourselves, deciding to act despite the doubts that we have. All of these things can send a powerful message to ourselves that we are capable. And over time, hopefully, that voice of self-doubt gets quieter and gets replaced instead by a confidence that showing up again and again was the right thing to do. Here's the thing, like, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have everything all figured out. Confidence isn't something that's built in a day. We don't just wake up with it one day. It's built in those small, consistent moments of courage, of those moments where we are scared and we have self-doubt, but we just show up anyway. And those moments of courage are the proof that you need, that you've faced out before and you have overcome it and you will again.
So as you face today's challenges, whether it's a big test, a tough project, or just showing up, remember this: you don't have to have all the answers. You don't need anyone else's permission to believe in yourself, and you're not here to prove your worth. There is no need to fear and avoid self-doubt. Rather, embrace it for the possibility of gaining more clarity and finding out who you really are. You are moments away from finding out how to live the life you truly want. Welcome self-doubt with open arms. It's waiting for you.